Kimi K3 is 40% cheaper than Claude Opus 5 on every single token metric input and output. And it still ties Claude on context window size. That gap adds up fast when you're running real workloads at scale. Both models dropped recently and people are already picking sides. So I went through 12 verified sources, no vendor money, no spin, and compared Claude Opus 5 versus Kimi K3 across 5 real tests to see where each one actually wins. And yeah, the cheaper model wins on price, but there's one specific workflow where Claude Opus 5 is still the smarter call and it has nothing to do with benchmarks. So stick around because that decision point might be exactly your situation. This comparison is for developers and team leads picking an API model for real work, not a toy project. The wrong choice means either overpaying by 40% every single month or missing a built-in feature you'd have to build yourself. And that's a real cost worth 5 minutes to get right. Test 1, context window and long document handling. So here's what actually goes wrong when a model's context falls apart on you. You feed it a 500-page code base or a legal doc, and by page 300, it's just forgetting things from the beginning and you don't even notice until the output is wrong and you've already shipped it. What I found is pretty straightforward on the surface. Both Claude Opus 5 and Kimi K3 spec a 1 million token context window. So on paper, they're identical. Claude claims its retrieval quality holds deep into that window, while Kimi has 0 published data on that. And I want to be clear that Claude's claim isn't a verified benchmark either. Honestly, the gap here is smaller than it looks, or maybe bigger, we just don't know yet. Claude's depth claim is vendor stated, not independently tested. And Kimi's flat pricing across the full 1 million context is actually a nice practical advantage. So calling one better than the other on context quality right now is kind of pulling a lever on a slot machine. I was expecting one of them to pull ahead here, but the honest answer is this one's a tie. Same 1 million token window, no independent benchmark to separate them on quality. So the score right now is Claude Opus 5.0, Kimi K3.0, 1 tied, and I'd get your hands dirty testing your actual documents before trusting either vendor's claims. Test 2, reasoning speed and latency. Slow responses don't just feel bad, they actually break your workflow. If you're chaining calls in an agent loop and each step takes 20 seconds, you're sitting there watching a spinner while your users churn, and speed isn't a nice to have when you're literally hammering a model with back-to-back requests. Kimi K3 clocks in at 33.3 tokens per second, according to artificial analysis, which honestly isn't that fast compared to other models out there, and Claude has a fast mode that claims up to 2.5 times higher output speed. But Anthropic hasn't published a baseline tokens per second figure, so I can't give you a direct head-to-head number here, and that's a real caveat. I was expecting a clear win for one side, but without Claude's baseline speed number, you can't really call it. Claude's fast mode toggle is a genuine feature advantage, and Kimi's 33.3 tokens per second is at least a known quantity, just not a fast one. So this one's another tie, and the running score stays at Claude Opus 5.0, Kimi K3.0. 2 tied. Test 3, multilingual support. When a model's multilingual quality is bad, you don't always catch it right away. You ship a response in Spanish or Japanese, it sounds fluent enough, and then a native speaker tells you it's subtly wrong in a way that makes your product look careless. And that's the kind of failure that costs you users before you even know it happened. What surprised me here is how little data there actually is. Both Claude Opus 5 and Kimi K3 say they support multiple languages on their product pages, and that's pretty much where the information stops. I looked for any published multilingual benchmark for either model and came up empty. So right now you're basically guessing on both sides. And yeah, the hard truth is this totally depends on your language and your use case, because a model that's great at French might be mediocre at Thai. Neither vendor has published the breakdown. So if non-English output is a real requirement for you, you need to run your own tests with your actual target language before committing to either one. Honestly, I was expecting at least one of them to have some multilingual benchmark data, but there's just nothing to go on. Both claim support, neither proves it, so this is a tie again, and the score stays at Claude Opus 500, Kimi K3.0, 3 tie. If multilingual quality is your whole thing, go test it yourself right now. Test 4, pricing and cost per token. If you're running a product that calls an API thousands of times a day, a 40% price difference is a real budget line. And picking the wrong model means you're burning money every single hour your app is live, which compounds fast over a month. I pulled the API pricing pages for both, and here's what we got. Claude Opus 5 is $5 per million input tokens and $25 per million output tokens. Kimi K3 is $3 input and $15 output, so that's 40% cheaper across the board, and it holds even on cash hits at 50 cents for Claude versus 30 cents for Kimi. Claude's batch API can cut output costs, but Kimi still stays cheaper even then. Kimi K3 takes this one clean. I was expecting the gap to close when you factor in Claude's batch pricing, but Kimi stays cheaper on every single metric we could check, 40% less. That's not close. So Kimi K3 gets on the board, and the running score moves to Claude Opus 500, Kimi K3 1, 3 tied. Test 5, real-time information access. If your model can't pull current data and you don't know that, you end up with confidently wrong answers about things that changed last week. Stock prices, news, API docs that got updated. And your app gives a user stale info they trust right up until something breaks in the real world because your model was living in the past. This one's pretty clear cut. Kimi K3 has a built-in web search tool right in the API, no extra setup needed, and Claude Opus 5 has no built-in search at all. So you need external tools to get real-time data. Claude's knowledge cutoff is community reported as May 2026, which is at least a known quantity, but that doesn't help you when you need live information today. Kimi K3 wins this one too. I was expecting Claude to have some workaround baked in, but nope, you're on your own for real-time data with Claude. And Kimi just does it natively, which is a whole project you don't have to build. So the final score is Claude Opus 5-0, Kimi K3 2, 3 tied. So where does Claude Opus 5 actually win? 3 spots. The fast mode toggle lets you trade speed for cost on demand, which Kimi just doesn't have. Claude's long context quality is claimed to hold deep, making it the better bet for processing entire books or code bases. You know the knowledge cutoff is May 2026, so you're not guessing. And where does Kimi K3 win? Also 3 spots, and they're pretty concrete. It's 40% cheaper on input and output tokens, full stop. It has built-in web search, so real-time data is just there, no extra work. And it handles text, images, and video natively inside that 1 million context window, which Claude doesn't do out of the box. Honestly, I was expecting Claude to pull ahead somewhere decisive, but the final score is 0-2 with 3 ties, and that's a pretty honest reflection of where things stand right now. So here's the decision rule. If you need real-time data or you're watching your API bill, go with Kimi K3, 40% less every month. If you're doing deep, long context work on big documents and you want a speed toggle, Claude Opus 5 is still the right call.